You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome to the very first episode of Dynasty Theory on the DD Fantasy Football podcast feed, YouTube channel. We're excited you're here. If this is the first time you're listening, if you haven't been paying attention for the last 5 years, I'm John Bauer. We got Dan Lamagna, and we have Mitch Sorensen. What's going on, Dan?
Gentlemen, great to be here tonight. Been just counting down to this first episode with DD Fantasy Football. Super stoked. And just two quick things for tonight. First, just I got to get out the proud dad moment. Son won his first freshman game tonight. Freshman high school football was really cool. You know, he's moving up 27-12, had an interception, so that felt good. And then Labor Day weekend, completed 2 home drafts. And if Shane is the worst, happens to listen to the pod, I just wanted to puke in my mouth today, taking Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown in the first and third rounds. So, Shane, that was for you, but it shows for our listeners as a diehard Cowboys fan, I can put the bias aside when it comes to winning money.
It rarely happens, but it does. And then we got Mitch. What's going on, Mitch?
What's going on, guys? They're like, your kids winning. My kids are getting smoked in youth football right now. I think one was like 42-0. The other one, it was a little bit closer, but it wasn't really that close. But there's really nothing more fun than kids in football. Because one thing, I think that's really important is the coaching now. They don't do the big hits anymore. It's not rah, rah, rah. We're the, huge physical man that go and tackle people really hard. Like, if you go and you make a bad tackle, you lead with your head, like the coaches are on you in a second now. And so I really enjoy that aspect of it because now I don't feel bad for having my kids in youth football because I think they're actually being coached correctly now. Unlike, back in our day, Tor was like, you torpedoed yourself if you could because you want to make that big hit.
I'm glad it's safe in Utah as it is in Pennsylvania, so that's definitely a plus, Mitch.
All right. Well, anyway, my kids are a little bit younger, not yet into football. I can't see my oldest son really playing football, but we'll see. So typically, again, if you have not listened to Dynasty Theory, we keep our intros super short. It is this 2 minutes in. That's one of our longer intros, but just to give you a very brief idea of what to expect on Dynasty Theory now that we were in front of the whole DD fantasy audience. We will go into things on a micro level. We talk about a lot of specific players, a lot of specific trades that you're going to see throughout tonight's episode. But what we like to do is then step back. We like to then look at it from a macro standpoint. And what we'll do, we'll take one specific player, one specific trade, and identify overarching, topics and strategies that we can do with that specific player. So tonight's format, it is the final episode before the season kicks off. And then we are still working behind the scenes of what exactly an in-season episode is going to look like this season moving forward. And then hopefully, for the most part, stick to kind of that guideline and, allow all of our viewers and listeners to know exactly what to expect when they tune in to an episode of Dynasty Theory. But without further ado, let's get rolling, gentlemen. So tonight, with the offseason wrapping up, we kind of wanted to talk about some of the offseason trends, whether it is a specific player or kind of how we can look at that on the larger scale, the bigger picture. And we're looking at guys that really have risen in value, not just over the entire offseason, but some of these guys over the last 2 weeks. We put our scouting glasses on and we put our analytics hats on and we have all this research and all this data. And then a piece comes out about, coach speak. Something comes out. It's like, well, everything's flipped upside down now as a dynasty community. So some of those players are going to be discussed tonight, but also some guys that maybe have lost a little bit of value and luster within the dynasty community. So, Mitch, I want to turn this first one over to you because this is kind of your guy coming into the 2024 rookie draft season. And unless I'm mistaken, somebody that you still like up to this point. The first guy is Blake Corum. over the last week, according to dynastydaddy.com, we have partnered with Jeremy for quite some time now. And I know he is going to be a staple in that DD fantasy football community moving forward. So go check out dynastydaddy.com if you haven't. But Blake Corum, 145 trades in the last week. And those are super flex formats I've looked at. KTC has been running back 24. Fantasy Calc 26. I'm at 25. The big difference I've noticed, KTC has him tiered with an early 25 second or a late 27 first. And I know we're all very good at projecting what first round picks are going to be 3 years out, but that's where they have them. I'm more in line with a random 25 second, maybe a non-playoff 26 second. And like I let listeners know, and Mitch, you always laugh at me when I do this, but unless otherwise noted, assume 12-team Superflex, 2 PPR for tight end, start 10, lineup league, okay? So that's our baseline for any conversation we discuss unless otherwise noted. All right, let me take a breath now. Mitch, you guys can
I thought
tell
you were going to ask me a question at some point,
Listen.
but I figure we could go another 30 minutes, and then
Listen.
at some point we'll get a question out.
I have not done a show with you gentlemen in 3 weeks since we went to Canton. I'm super jacked. And I think that I want our viewers and our listeners to be able to feel that. And I think they can. This is a passionate group. We put together a passionate show. So sit back, try to relax while we get through a lot of these guys. Anyway, Mitch, Blake Corum, what are you looking at with him here?
He was my favorite back going into the draft. I still think he was never elite. It's hard for me to say he wasn't elite because he's extremely good at everything, right? But he didn't have the top end speed coming out. But everything he does on the football field, isn't it exactly what like a Sean McVay offense, like what they covet, what they want? So as soon as he went there, I was like, that sucks. Because, I wanted him to be the running back one walking in. But like, I love Kyron. And before that draft pick happened, I had a lot of Kyron on my teams and I was really high on him.
You were buying Kyron. You bought one share from me for Nick Chubb in a 25 first pre-NFL draft. So one of your favorite pre-NFL draft buys is now paired with one of your favorite rookie running backs.
What they did with this offensive line, they're going to run and they're going to be able to pass really well. Their defense is going to be horrible. So I kind of love every facet of this offense. So for me, it's Blake Corum. You say you kind of like him for a 25 second. My issue is I do have a fair amount of Blake Corum on my teams. There's no reason for me really to move off him. If I'm a rebuilder, why do I move him for a 25 second? Doesn't make any sense. If I'm a contender, I don't want to move him because all of the talk, we'll talk about Kyron Williams later, but oh my gosh, he's going to be on punt returns. That means he's dead in fantasy, right? That's what the whole talk was all last week. I think it's absolutely crazy, but that's all that it takes for these running backs like a Blake Corum to all of a sudden go up in value. Now, instead of that mid 25 second, he could be an early 25 second. Then what happens week 1 against the Lions? He gets the red zone work. He gets 2 touchdowns. That 25 seconds out the window, and you're already looking at a late 25 first for him. So in my opinion,
in an island game.
Yeah, exactly.
All eyes are on
Sunday night, first week of the season. It's going to be all about it. I actually think he's going to do really well. And so for me, I'm still willing to go by him. If you can get him for that 25 second, I would. If I could do an early 25 second, I would. I just love Blake Corum and the team itself and everything that's built around him.
All right. Because again, I'm speaking to this like it's our first episode ever because we have a lot of new listeners and viewers, but typically what will happen, Mitch and Dan will be spitting out facts. They will be spitting out knowledge. And I'm soaking that up. And I have 58 follow-up questions. So it happened right there, but I'm going to hold on to it because I want to turn it over to Dan. Dan, in addition to your overall thoughts on Blake Corum, do you believe there is any standalone value here? Let's say nothing has to happen to Kyron Williams. Do you think that can happen here?
I think there is. I mean, we go through drafts, and especially if you have like a 0 RB strategy and you're stacking those running backs, and you get what looks like one of the best handcuffs to Kyren Williams based on the way McVay uses his running backs. If anything happens to Kyren Williams, there's only Blake Corum there. I don't think we're worried about Ronnie Rivers, even though there was a little bit of McVay coach speak in the preseason. But to Mitch's point, like, I wanted to throw the challenge flag, JB. I had it here in my hands, but Mitch was like a wordsmith starting off tonight and just really put it in there really nicely. There was no first round draft pick talk. It was only second round draft pick talk. And I think that's appropriate. So yeah, there's stand-up value, but he wasn't my first JB going into this draft. He was like my fourth or fifth running back from this year's draft.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, you say he was your favorite. For context, was he your running back one? Or he was just your favorite at price?
No, so before the draft happened, yes, he was my running back one. After the draft happened, after we saw landing spots, he ended up being like my running back three. So it worked out fine. I mean, and that class is so close together. I think to this day, I really don't care who you have of the top three guys. Mix them around however you want. I think they're all going to do well at some point during the season. They're just all in a spot to where we need to wait for them to actually do well this season, probably. Blake Corum's probably going to be the first one to have his hands on it, though.
You know, context is very important for me. And I know, I have seen the energy and the passion from the folks in the DD Fantasy Discord. Got to be on our toes, gentlemen. We got to be locked and loaded. So if Mitch is over there saying Blake Corum is my favorite running back, I just want to give the context. That's all. That's all. Because they're going to be in the YouTube comments. And speaking of YouTube comments, if there is anything you agree with, if there is anything you disagree with, any type of content you're looking to be included on an episode of Dynasty Theory, maybe things you're not particularly thrilled with, let us know. Any feedback, whether it's a specific take or just in general, maybe John talks too much. Maybe that's the situation. Let us know. So, Dan, it seems like you kind of feel like maybe it's more contingent value for Kyren or for Blake Corum, that he does need something to happen to Kyren to get an opportunity. Is that fair?
It is. And although I like what the Rams are doing, they stole Jonah Jackson from your Lions, Mitch. They have a really nice O-line, like you said, and a great opportunity if Kyren's, something happens to him where he goes down. But long-term value, I just don't know if he's their number one, where the Bensons and the Lloyds, I've just been a little bit higher on as far as long-term future and opportunity. So that's just me. That's just, running backs I evaluated as just having more talent. But system fit, opportunity, it is there.
Yeah, Lloyd was not one of the other two running backs I was mentioning. Lloyd was not one of those. Just to
That's
throw
my
that
guy,
out.
Mitch. That's my guy.
I mean, he's going through his own things with the hamstring, but now it seems like he's getting some work, and now the opportunity is there in Green Bay with no A.J. Dillon on IR out for the season. But and we always do this too, and you're going to notice this as a listener. We like to spend a lot of time on the first player every single week.
That's how excited we are.
If there was a chance to do a 3-hour-long show, sign me up. But I don't think people can stomach that much Dynasty Theory, especially if you're watching the video. Nobody wants to see this for 3 hours. But Mitch, you mentioned a few things, and I'm sure I'm going to miss something at this point. But you mentioned that if somebody has him, there's no reason to move for like a 25-second. Mm-hmm. The only thing I would say, let's say you're not contending and you have Blake Corum on your roster and he slipped in the draft and you had the opportunity to pick him, maybe for flexibility, for value insulation, for liquidity in that pick, there might be an opportunity. Like, you could probably go acquire him for like a 25-second and third. I think that's a fair price if you were looking to acquire. And there might be people,
I think you should.
And then we're going to get through some of the trades. Let's get through them right now because I think I'm getting the wrap-up music here.
He's got a word count. Mitch and I will often put JB on a word count like a pitcher because we don't want
it doesn't work. We try.
Fatigue.
But.
Yeah, it doesn't work. He says, I want to go 9 innings all the time. There's nothing we could do, but we try.
Even stuffed up, even with the sore throat, a little under the weather. This is like
those trades, JB. Get to those trades.
I'm like Michael Jordan over here.
I was wondering it was going to happen at some point during this episode.
All right, Mitch, let's start with you. We'll go Mitch, Dan, all the way through. Blake Corum for 25 first. These are all actual trades from Dynasty Daddy. This one is one quarterback, start 8.5 PPR, 12 team.
With it being start 8, I'm going to go the 25 first. It's like you're looking for the home run guys in that scenario.
I thought that was the one we would disagree with, but I'm with Mitch on a 25 first. I think there's a lot more upside there.
Blake Corum for Jalen Warren, PPR.
Okay. Personally, I want Blake Corum, but in Dynasty, I talk about all the time, there is always a Jalen Warren guy in the league. So Jalen Warren will have more value than Corum. So I'll say for everybody else out there, go Jalen Warren. You could probably get a lot more for him than you can Blake Corum.
And I'm going to go Blake Corum. I can't even believe I'm saying this because you're the Corum guy, and I've been on you a little here, Mitch. I am a little intrigued with what happens with Warren and Najee in next year's running back market. So, maybe there's a surprise landing spot. Who knows how that plays out? But I just think we know what we're getting in Jalen Warren, and I think I am intrigued about the upside of the opportunity with the Rams. So I'll go Corum.
I also am going to go Blake Corum, which I'm shocked that Mitch is going to go Jalen Warren.
There's the Jalen Warren and George Pickens. They're the two guys that, for whatever reason, there will be someone in your leagues that are like, no, they're amazing football players, and they're all right. They're just not really amazing.
I just Pickens there. Don't put Pickens in that sentence.
I just think the range of outcomes when we look at Blake Corum and we look at Jalen Warren, if Kyron Williams and Najee Harris were both good to go down, like let's say let's say this. Let's not even bring up injury. Let's say week 1, Blake Corum and Kyron go out there and it's like 50-50 timeshare. Week 2, 50-50. Week 3, 50-50. But Blake Corum has been more efficient. He's getting the touchdown opportunities. Let's just say that. We could be talking about Blake Corum as a top 15 dynasty back in a month. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But is it within the realistic range of outcomes? It's possible.
No, I completely agree. I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. I'm just saying there's someone out there who will value Jalen Warren more than Blake Corum.
Well, now we'll see. Well, Jalen Warren coming back from his own hamstring issue. Hamstrings have been a common theme. It sounds like he's going to try to play in week 1 here. And speaking about week 1, Mitch and I are going to be live every single Sunday, starting this Sunday for week 1, only on the DD Fantasy Football YouTube channel. 90 minutes, rapid fire, start, sit, pop in, drop your comments in there. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. It's going to be a lot of fun every Sunday morning. All right. Blake Corum for Christian Kirk in a 26th third, 10 team, start 9, 0.5 PPR.
In 0.5 and a start 9, I'm going to go Blake Corum.
Same. I lost Kirk at the half PPR.
I with 90 starters throughout the league, give me go for the home run there. I love Christian Kirk, but we know what he is. And in 0.5 PPR, where he's one of those guys that typically his fantasy points per opportunity is a little bit lower as a receiver. Mitch, do you like how I rephrase that? And I didn't say he's target dependent.
It's very good. It's very good.
I don't want to get attacked again, circa 2019 or so. All right, Corum. I'm skipping.
Yeah.
No, I'm skipping that. All right, Blake Corum and Nick Chubb for T. Higgins in a 26th third, 1 quarterback, 10 teams, start 8 PPR.
T. Higgins. I was talking about it on previous episodes. I think T. Higgins can go nuclear this year, even if Jamar Chase is there. I think they're both in for huge seasons. So I think Higgins is just going to flat out outscore Blake Corum from week 1 through week 16 or 17. And then we'll see what happens, in the offseason next year with him.
Agreed. I think he's going to be highly paid next year. So I think it's going to work out good either way. Give me what I think is the best player in that deal.
I don't know why so many 10-team leagues were popping up here, but we got one more. As I said, our baseline is 12-team start 10. There have been no 12-team start 10 Superflex. But anyway, Blake Corum for Sam Darnold, Superflex, 10-team start 10 PPR.
Corum, still, smash, whatever adjective you want to throw on there, even if that is an adjective. Yeah, it's Corum.
Yeah, I'm really hoping, owners have someone better than Darnold out in the lineup. Not saying that he can't help you, but to me, it's a 1-year rental. I don't want a 1-year rental in Dynasty. I want Corum for many, many years.
And if we are smashing, if you smash it, it's a verb. But if it,
you act like I'm going to remember any of this, John. They tried it in high school, and I didn't care then. I'm not going to care now.
But if we put it in fantasy football context, maybe that's what's missing from the U.S.
Maybe that is.
System.
Yeah. Well, let's see if it sticks.
All right. Up next, 172 trades in super flex leagues over the last week. Isiah Pacheco. Dan, is it worth paying his price right now with the current running back landscape and what we're expecting to see come down the pipeline in rookies in 2025?
It's not. And he's been floating on the back end of my top 12, and I think he's towards the end of it now. What's coming down the pipeline every year, a running back like Pacheco gets a year older. We've talked in past episodes of Dynasty Theory about his physical running style. And now I'm starting to, listen to the Kansas City Insider who's saying, hey, Carson Steele, maybe a little goal line work, Samaje Perine, maybe a little receiving work. One of the reasons we really liked Pacheco, well, where'd everybody go on the pod here, Stream?
I'm trying things. Keep going.
I like that. It was just me there. That was kind of cool, man.
I'm trying things.
But Perine in the passing game, like the reason we liked Pacheco for many weeks is we thought he's just going to be the workhorse and there's no one else. Now there's some guys creeping in there. So, JB, as much as I still like Pacheco, I'm probably going to lean the other way. You're really throwing me off with this YouTube, whatever you're doing over here.
I'm trying to spice things up. I want to send the focus on Dan. Listen,
my room is set up for this, man. It's very particular in how I look on StreamYard.
We should be warned this, Mitch. For our audio listeners, JB is like trying different screens and zooming in. He's getting all fancy, but he gave Mitch and I no heads up.
Listen, with the platform that has been allowed to us here, it's time to up our game, gentlemen. Okay? All right? So, all right, I'll let you guys off the hook, but can we just try it next week?
Well, at least now we're ready.
I think you guys should do whatever you want next week. I think it's a great idea.
Dan or Mitch will be on a work little trip thing anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Mitch, you love the way Isiah Pacheco runs. The way he looks, you like the way he runs.
Yeah, I've always been like a huge fan of like trying to attack the ground and injure yourself while you're running. No. So anyone who hasn't listened, I hate how Isiah Pacheco runs. I hate watching it on the TV. I hate everything about it. But I stopped being stubborn early this summer, and I started looking at it. I'm like, look, how have we always felt about these Chiefs offenses? What happened to CEH the second he got drafted? Oh, look, he's the 101 in non-superflex drafts because he went to the Chiefs when we had Kareem Hunt. We know how much he was played in DFS. Even before that, we knew what happened with Jamal Charles, right? We're kind of getting off of it, but the one problem is Pacheco is getting older, right? He is. And as much as I want to buy into him, because I fully believe in redraft. Pacheco is a guy that I want. I have him in so many best ball teams. I'm trying to get him on any of my redraft teams that I can because I 100% believe that he's going to do really, really well this year. My problem is he's a guy whose value who can just tank. I don't know if he goes out. Let's say he has an injury and he's out the last 8 games of the season. Where is he at going into 2025? Mm-hmm. Probably where he's at now, if not a little bit lower. And it's going to be so hard for him to continue to even gain value, even if he's really good. It's going to be really hard for you to end up moving him until it turns into, hey, it's Halloween. Someone's making a playoff push. They're willing to give you a lot more so they could go and win a championship. That's kind of what you're looking for on Isiah Pacheco at this point. I absolutely love the guy. I love him this year, but his price is just on the tipping point to where I'm probably not. I wouldn't advocate for people to go out there and pay it. Would I on certain teams? Yeah, but it really depends on my team build there.
He's already 25 years old, even though he's only had 2 years in the league up to this point. He was a little bit older coming out. Free agent after the 25 season. So entering the last year of your contract as a rookie, whenever we have what we're assuming is just this influx of talent coming in next year, the hype's already building. Look at some of the gaudy numbers that these kids were putting up this last weekend. The Discord was popping with hype. And it's not going to stop, especially with the the video game too. Like there's gonna be so much name recognition. It's going to be absolutely absurd. Fact check really quick because I'm crazy. Isiah Pacheco came in when CEH and Jerick McKinnon were in Kansas City, not Kareem Hunt. A little bit earlier.
That's not what I was even saying, John.
You
what I was saying is we cared about running backs then. We cared about Kareem Hunt at that point. We cared about CEH. We have never cared about Isiah Pacheco as much as we cared about those guys. I don't care who he was on the team with. I'm saying we don't care about him as a player the same way that we cared about CEH when he came out, the same way we cared about Kareem Hunt as soon as he started producing. That's what I'm saying here.
I need to go back now. I need to go back. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe foggy brain. But okay. So KTC has Isiah Pacheco at running back 11. I'm at 10. Fantasy Calc is at 9. And like we talk about all these trades in general that pull from dynastydaddy.com, right? And we've had so many people say, well, that's not going to get done in my league. But they're getting done somewhere. It might not be in your specific league, but when we talk about these specific players, we look at more of the overarching concept. And I think that's what is the most valuable piece here when talking about all these guys. So like going back to the Blake Corum discussion, a top tier handcuff running back that maybe has no standalone value, but the contingent value is through the roof. You can look at that across the league, and a name that Dan mentioned, Marshawn Lloyd. I think that could kind of be a similar situation. Isiah Pacheco. Maybe you don't have Isiah Pacheco in your league. Maybe you're not targeting him as a trade candidate, but we're looking at running backs that, they're 25 years old. They might be entering the last year of their contract coming up. And again, Pacheco still has this year and next, but I think that's something to keep in mind. The big thing here, the big discrepancy, KTC has Isiah Pacheco tiered with a mid-25 first. I can't get behind that. If it's a mid-25 first with the high-end wide receivers, the high-end depth at running back coming out, and we didn't even talk about any of the quarterbacks. A few of them are going to float up the boards. I cannot get behind first at this point in time that could very well land outside of the playoffs. I have them right ahead of a late first, which I think that price is fair. But again, you probably can make that decision a few weeks into the season if necessary. So here's a few trades. Dan, we're starting with you this time through. Pacheco for Trey Benson and a 25 second Superflex 12 team start 11 full PPR.
This one here, I put a note of it. Is it win now or no? If it's win now, I'm taking Pacheco because we may have to wait a while on Benson. If my roster's not win now, I am a Trey Benson believer. So give me Benson in that second.
Completely agree with Dan.
Isiah Pacheco for a 25 first, Superflex 12 team, start 13, full PPR, and an extra point tight end premium.
This is where, it goes back to our conversation where you were talking about that KTC value. Give me the first. I'm just going to roll the dice wherever that 25 first lands because there are some studs going to be in that first round that I think are going to have more value than Pacheco.
Yeah, this is where I would go to Dynasty Daddy and I would load up the overall value of every team. Look at the contender because start 13, you will see some huge variances between the number 1 team, the number 12 team. Sorry. So if I'm 4th and I'm looking good, that's when I'm going to go and try to add a Pacheco. If I'm 8th or 9th, that's the point where I'm like, yeah, give me the first. That's who I'm going to go with.
It's going to take a heck of a lot more than one player to probably right the ship here. So if you're in that middle gap, you're going to need a little bit more for really to be a difference maker. And one more asterisk, KTC, I know people have their issues with it, but it's a very quick frame of reference. Mm-hmm. It's a very quick data point that we like to pull into these discussions. There are a lot of issues with it, yes. But it gives you at least a framework, and it gives you comparison points when looking at early, mid, and late picks, whereas Fantasy Calc, another resource, some issues. Yes, it's based on actual trades, but it doesn't differentiate, and you really can't differentiate between early, mid, and late. So a lot of asterisks. I just like to throw that out there because somebody's sitting there, guys, and they're saying KTC's trash. Fantasy calc is trash. But the JB tier value, that's spot on. That's spot on. Pacheco for Derrick Henry and a 26-second. Superflex 12-team start 9 PPR.
This is a hard one. Like, I think it's a very even trade. 26 seconds, a little bit off, even though it'll probably be here before you know it. I'm not one to be patient for draft picks. So I think kind of like I normally lean towards the younger running back in Pacheco, who's 25, and Henry kind of feel like he's, ready to fall off that cliff. But at the same time, Baltimore, like I believe in Coach Harbaugh, I think they could feed him a ton. I'm just a little bit worried about the Ravens O-line. They lost a couple guys this offseason. So I really need to see week 1 and week 2 and kind of how Baltimore is looking. I don't know. Win now, I think I roll the dice on a potential big year for King Henry. Not win now. I might just lean Pacheco in the youth, kind of normal rule of thumb for a running back.
Yeah, I love Henry this year, right? But I'm going Pacheco. If this was a 25-second, I might consider a little bit more, but 26-second, I mean, if that ends up being like the 26 to 11, that's not enough for me to move off Pacheco.
I'm going Pacheco there as well. Pacheco for Mike Evans and Chase Brown, 1 quarterback, 12-team start 10 PPR.
Here I go with Mike Evans and Chase Brown. Hope to catch lightning in a bottle with Chase Brown, and I think Evans will outscore Pacheco this year.
Yeah, same. When I saw Evans, I'm like, that can't be Mike Evans, right? But yeah, if it's Mike Evans, that's who I'm going with.
It certainly isn't Darrington Evans.
See, it would have been a little bit closer for me.
And actually, with the 12-team start 10, with it being 1 quarterback, you have an extra flex player that you need to get in there. So an additional piece that, like you said, Dan,
yes,
catch lightning in a bottle, it could be a key piece there. Isiah Pacheco for Brandon Ayuk, full PPR, start 11, 12-team.
I always like building my teams around those young, elite or near elite wide receivers, and to me, Brandon Ayuk is that. That's a smash for me.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm extremely happy to get Ayuk for that.
All right, we're going to go over to the tight end landscape here. Another guy that has been picking up steam. This has pretty much been from January on.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton Kincaid, 103 trades over the last week. Will he offer enough high-end production to warrant his current values? Guys, can I go on a spiel real quick here?
Can we stop you?
You can't.
Do we have a choice, JB? Come on.
This is one that I wanted to dig into a little bit, and you're probably thinking you guys didn't dig into the first two. We're very thorough. So, okay. Dalton Kincaid, free agent after 26. No worry there. Obviously, just coming off the rookie season. 5th-year option, 24 years old. Last year, both guys here recline back. I'm not going to be that long. Last year, from week 11 on, and I'm going to tell you why I picked week 11, there were 20 tight ends in full PPR that had 50 fantasy points. Joe Brady took over as the OC in Buffalo, week 11, okay? During that time, he was 13th out of those 20 in team receiving yard percentage, tied 4th in ADOT, so he's getting targets down the field at 9.2 compared to what other tight ends are doing. 13th in route participation, 13th in yards per route run, 13th in yards after the catch per reception, 1 end zone target from week 11 to week 18, 0 touchdowns. So we talk about, well, maybe there's some positive touchdown variance. It's not like he was getting targets in the end zone and they weren't coming to fruition, okay? He was 18th in first downs per route run. 8 PPR points per game. That was tight end 21 per game. That was actually below expected. Now, from week 7 to week 10, this coincides with pre-Joe Brady as the OC. It coincides with Dawson Knox missing time. He was 5th in points per game at 16.3 in PPR. 32 routes per game from week 7 to week 10. Starting in week 11, all the way through the end of the season, 25 routes per game. We're talking about what? Almost a 25% dip in route opportunities from week 7 to week 10. The offense was 7th with a 67% pass rate. When Joe Brady took over, they fell to 31st. They had a lower pass rate than Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons during that time. Think about that. That is crazy. So I say, at a 52% pass rate when Joe Brady took over, 37% pass rate in the red zone, does Dalton Kincaid warrant his price of tight end 3, gentlemen, in dynasty formats?
I mean, I've got him as tight end 4, so I don't know. That might be too technical there.
The market
that was
has
last
him at
year,
3.
JB.
You have him at 4. That was last year. He was a rookie, but you like to see these guys improve on a per route basis, and I don't think he did that. Then volume came down. Yes, Diggs left. They draft Keon Coleman. They bring in Curtis Samuel. I think based on the moves they've made, they kind of tell us they want to stick with that more run-first approach. Maybe I'm a little glass half empty here, and maybe you guys can help me see the light.
The coach in me has you've got me thinking. You're in my head, so mission accomplished there. This is a team where, hey, we're seeing Josh Allen's interceptions there. They had more success, getting James Cook going. They draft Ray Davis, I think to kind of help in that run game as well. So you put a little scare into me, JB. But I also think here's a guy that's got all the tools. He's a receiving tight end. I watched the games last year. He did pass the eye test. I think year 2, just figure things out, being healthy, increased role. That's not enough to scare me away. I just think he's too much of a stud.
Mitch, any concern?
No.
So here's my issue, right? I'm not a huge Dalton Kincaid guy, but I understand his value. His value is there because he was a rookie last year who got 70 catches and looked pretty good on the field. But his price isn't that much lower than a Trey McBride. I will take Trey McBride every day of the week over Dalton Kincaid. Sam Laporta, I'm a huge Lions fan. For anyone who doesn't know, I mean, he's far and away my favorite tight end in the league, and I'll take him far and away over Kincaid, right? And then down below him, there's Brock Bowers, and I would probably rather have Brock Bowers at this point. Kyle Pitts in that offense, right? Today, I'll take Kincaid.
Yeah.
I'll take Kincaid today, right? But are we going to be shocked after Sunday Kyle Pitts goes out and has a decent game? All of a sudden, we're thinking different because of the rookie year Kyle Pitts had, right? It's just, I can't pay that price for Kincaid right now. Like, I've looked through the notes where John has these trades. I don't think I'm taking Kincaid on any of them.
Wow.
Maybe I quick dive on him, but
now I try to be unbiased, and Mitch mentioned a name that during his rookie season, I was extremely high on Trey McBride coming out.
Mm-hmm.
He had a historically horrendous rookie season, and Dalton Kincaid was not that like he was a rookie and he performed just fine. I just want to throw a little bit of caution out there, but is he still in my tight end 3 to 6 tier? Absolutely. Okay. But I think the expectations and some of these trades you're going to see here in a second, there is opportunity, I think, to flip Dalton Kincaid at a premium. But again, like we saw what Trey McBride was able to do, like they move on from DeAndre Hopkins and Zach Ertz is no longer blocking him. The Bills move on from Stephon Diggs, but Dawson Knox is still going to be out there. Maybe he's just getting a lot of calisthenics in. He's just getting some sprints in, but he's still going to be out there. So I just think that pass rate, it did have me thinking, and again, not thinking enough to move him down a tier at all, but just some data I wanted to pull out. I was digging into some of the resources over there that, from the DD team, and I wanted to be able to throw that out there. So let's see here. Dalton Kincaid for George Kittle and a 25 first. Superflex, 10 teams, start 10, PPR, and an extra point for tight ends. Let's go Mitch Dan.
Okay, I'll go Kittle in the 25 first. I think that the 25 class is going to continue to get hype. And I think George Kittle is so undervalued right now that it's crazy. So I'm more than happy to have George Kittle on my team.
I lean Mitch's way, but I will hedge this bet here a little bit. I mean, I love, if possible, to have one of those four tight ends on my roster. Like that's been my stance this year. I want Laporta, Bowers, McBride, or Kincaid on as many rosters as possible, having one of them. If that roster is a contender, like I'm competing, I'm so confident, like I have one of the better rosters, I will be aggressive for Kincaid. But if it's not one of my top teams, then I'm with you, Mitch.
And for anybody curious, all that data in the splits I was pulling out, that was from Fantasy Points. The stuff that you're able to drill down to, it's pretty impressive. So a spreadsheet guy like myself, I was getting pretty excited. All right.
That was good, JB. I got to give you kudos. And like for our listeners, like I love film. JB loves the spreadsheets, man. He's into the data. Mitch hops in with him. I know that both of you guys put in a lot into your projections. So like I need to hear that. I just still believe in Kincaid and his talent and in his role this year. Although, Mitch, I do worry a little bit from you being from Utah, not as excited on Kincaid. I've always been a little surprised by that.
I mean, he wasn't.
Mitch, you loved him pre-draft.
I did. I like the guy. It's not that I hated him. It's just there's a better tight end that was on the Utes during that season until he got injured. Yes, Kincaid was awesome, and Kincaid is going to do great in the NFL. But that was always my hesitation, right? Like, he wasn't the best tight end on his team at the time, so that was wild. Hard when he was coming out.
So who do we got next, JB?
Sorry, I was actually looking at a counter from Shane and this new. I did
that Eagles fan could wait, JB.
I did my first ever
next trade. I want to talk about the next trade.
Hold on, I did my first ever fast auction with a lot of folks in the DD Discord yesterday.
Nice.
I saw how well that went, man. I mean, woo!
Just like in real life, budgeting is not my strong suit. Good Lord. Woo. Take that out back, that team, and just end it. All right. Dalton Kincaid for Devon Achane. You're getting the extra point for tight ends, but it's 12 teams, start 11. Full PPR otherwise.
Devon Achane. I think he is the running back this year that can go nuclear. I have a lot of faith that, we saw in the preseason, teams talk about lining up their running backs out wide. Achane's out wide. They actually do it on the field. I just think they're going to give him so much opportunity. He held up in the SEC. I am not worried about it. I think Achane, however you say it. I say Achane. I know it's not the correct pronunciation. There we go. You proud of me? That was pretty good. But I'm absolute hammer there. No hesitation.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take Kincaid just because I'm going to build my roster differently. I'm going to find myself other running backs that are still going to make me happy and not take the chance of getting stuck with Dallas Goedert. So it'll be Kincaid for me with the tight end premium.
So much Eagles hate.
Now,
of all the tight ends, Dallas Goedert.
Mitch, put your earmuffs on really quick because I'm going to say that 3-letter word that you hate. When you look at the WAR in leagues, okay, and this is over at ddfantasyfootball.com.
Hey, I got something for you on this whole WAR thing. You go ahead, but I have a counter real quick.
But when you look at the WAR and over at ddfantasyfootball.com, you can see the per game over the course of the season, 3-year rolling averages for positions. The reason I bring this up, because when you're in a league, pay attention to this. If you're in as a baseline, 12 teams, start 10, 1 PPR extra for tight ends, start 10, that's your baseline. When you add more positional players, you're going to see their WAR by comparison. It's slight, but the more positions you add, it's going to increase when you compare it to the one-off positions in one quarterback and tight end, even though we're typically in super flex leagues, tongue-tied, or tight end premium leagues. But the more you add, start 12, 13, 14, the WAR is going to adjust. And it's the same thing for tight ends if you think about it. If I have to start 2 tight ends and it's a start 10 league overall, you're going to see that adjustment as a result. So the reason I bring that up, if it's a start 10, I'm going Kincaid. Start 11 gives a little bit more power to these positional players at running back and wide receiver. I would have them then tiered together, but I think I'm going that upside in Achane. Like, he has week winning upside every week. So I actually would lean Achane with the start 11 aspect here. That's the only reason I bring that up, Mitch.
I agree. I think WAR is an amazing thing. I actually used it quite a bit because it goes to my strategy. I love having the elite running backs in. Even the WAR says the elite running backs are extremely valuable. I think Achane can be that guy this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he doesn't live up to his potential and he can't produce on higher volume the way that he did his rookie year, but I just have faith that he can.
All right. Kincaid. So we're going to start with Mitch, but Dan, this one's going to put you to the test. Kincaid for Brock Bowers in a 25-second extra point for tight ends, 12-team start 11 PPR.
That offense is so bad. I'm saying Brock Bowers, but I hate that offense so much.
Yeah, man, it's a little bit of a struggle right now, like at this point in the year, because you're trying to win your leagues and you're thinking, hey, there is this storyline of Kincaid having a monster season potentially. And then Bowers is kind of limping in there, hasn't practiced in a while. And Gardner Minshew's your quarterback, and there's a lot of Raider concerns. But it is Dynasty, getting that second-round draft pick to boot. I just think Brock Bowers is such a kind of generational talent. Like we talk about pedigree and who's kind of meant for this moment. I have such high expectations, and I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan. That doesn't hurt, man. Give me Bowers in the second.
Well, here's
start 11 too, so you're getting two guys here. That's going to come in handy later.
Here's what I would do. I think we have a cascading effect here in possible trades. You trade Kincaid for Bowers in the second, which I'm taking the Bowers side. But then we've talked about the price on like a Dallas Goedert, on a Jake Ferguson in a lot of situations, Evan Ingram, even Travis Kelce, depending on his price. Like you can get production elsewhere. So I think there is something to be had there if you would look to explore that. All right, next one, Mitch. Kincaid in a 25 first for Sam Laporta, 10-team, start 8, PPR, additional point for tight ends.
Yeah, like we said earlier, start 8, you want the juggernauts at the position, so I want Sam Laporta. There's no better tight end in the league than him. That's who I want on a start 8 team.
All right, Dan?
So painful. Like Laporta is the juggernaut, and I don't disagree with your start 8 philosophy, but like when Kincaid is just a couple players lower than him in the rankings, and I think he could have a big year to turn down that 25 first. I don't think I could do it. I'm going to go Kincaid in the first.
I'm going to take Laporta. Kincaid for Andrews, Jonnu Smith in a 25 second, 12-team super flex, start 10 PPR, extra point for tight ends.
See, this one's really tough for me because Andrews isn't that old. Like I kind of assume he's like 31, 32. I'm pretty sure he's 29.
28.
Exactly. Like he's not even old yet. And so I think if you're going to say, hey,
well, his birthday is actually in 4 days.
Oh, okay. So he does
29. That changes things.
If you go to me, Mitch, who's going to score more points over the next 2 seasons, Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid? I'm like, Mark Andrews, no hesitation. So you're telling me I get a second on top of it. We'll see with that whole Jonnu Smith thing. He's kind of a whatever add into me. So I'll go Mark Andrews.
I'm going to go I want Kincaid on my roster. That's a very, very close one. It is a hard one, but I'll go Kincaid again.
I'm going to go Andrews as well. Mitch and I are in lockstep for the most part. Kincaid in a 25 third or Bowers in a 25 second. All same settings as the other one that we talked about with these two. 12-team Superflex, start 11 PPR, extra point for tight ends. Does the 2-3 swap changes for anybody?
Not for me.
Probably should have packaged these deals together, JB, in the notes. I just realized that now, but now the extra third isn't enough of a cherry on top.
Thanks, Captain Hindsight. I appreciate that. Next up, really, we got to rattle through.
Go ahead and get him on that one, Mitch.
Yeah, I think we might have to skip the second half of this episode, but that'll be okay. It's fine.
I was just so thrilled to be able to speak with you gentlemen today. All right, Bo Nix. Do you just want to go through trades here with him?
Well, how about we just skip Bo Nix, go to Rashee Rice?
All right, Rashee Rice.
Skip Bo Nix, Bo special.
Okay, fine. Go to Bo Nix. It's fine.
Bo Nix trades rapid fire.
We'll do those two players. How's that work?
Dan, you're first. Nix for Fields in a 25 first, 10-team, start 13 PPR, 1 point for tight end, an extra point for tight ends.
I actually love these because I'm really high on Bo Nix, and I just wanted the listeners to know that as we go through the season. I think he's a very good quarterback on a Sean Payton team that's trending up. So I'm taking Nix because I think Fields is just I don't want Fields. He can't throw. He's a glorified running back trying to play quarterback. And I think, hey, you never know what that first is going to be next year. I think you got a sure thing in Bo Nix. So give me Nix.
Yeah, like I brought up earlier, I would go Dynasty Daddy and I'll see where I think that first is going to land. If I think that's could be a playoff first, maybe not a playoff first, I'm going to hammer that first and Fields, because I think what's going to happen is Russ, at some point, whether it's injury or something, Fields is going to get on the field. He is going to score fantasy points, and some contender is going to want him. So I think you could kind of look at it as like a 25 first, 25 second, or Nix. I'll go with the picks in that case.
I'm going the pick regardless here because of the formats. 10 team, start 13. A player like Nix, his value is going to come down a little bit. So you're guaranteeing me a top 10 pick and then the lottery ticket in Fields. I'm going that direction here. Bo Nix for Jalen Polk and a 26 first. Superflex 12 team, start 10. PPR, extra point for tight ends. Dan?
Making me wait for that 26 first is always tough. But I'd say, hey, what's your team's quarterback situation here? That has to be looked at, because if you've got some of our rosters where I do have Bo Nix. He's my third quarterback because we were able to get him at a pretty good value in those drafts. So potential, future number one in Polk there. Once New England kind of figures things out, and if 26 first, I'd consider it. But I'll take Nix. But definitely going to look at my quarterback situation.
This one's actually an easy Nix for me. If it was a 25 first, more hesitation, but 26, yep. I'm going Nix.
Agree. Nix for 25 first, 26 second, 25 third, 12 team, start 10 PPR.
I'm going to learn from listening to you on the first time, JB, well, actually this is 12 team, not 10 team. So unless it's a really good first, I want Nix.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of a mixture of all the last trades we've kind of talked about, but it's not enough for me to move off that starting quarterback right now. But if you tell me that 25 first is, hey, it could be 108. All right, now I'll start to listen. But at this point, it's just going to be Bo Nix.
Go to Dynasty Daddy, whatever market you trust. Look at the power rankings there, and that can help guide you with that decision.
I'm interested on this next trade from the both of you, because I know where I'm firm on this one, but I think I'm going to be wrong.
Flavor of the day. I took a little nap today. Yes, I had that luxury. I wake up. One of the first messages I saw in the DD Discord was Mitch saying, man, y'all love Brian Thomas. So Bo Nix for Brian Thomas, 12 team, start 11 PPR.
As much as I wouldn't say love, but I do like Brian Thomas. I'm going under the assumption that, hey, I want to build my team around my quarterbacks. I'll take Nix. But there's a scenario where I could see you taking Brian Thomas, so not a bad trade by any means.
I'm going quarterback. Give me Nix.
Yep. I'll take Nix there as well.
Wow, that surprised me, John.
I have them tiered together, but I am fairly, I don't want to say confident, but I believe in Bo Nix here for that he's going to at least maintain value. Brian Thomas, that range. It's
could be so great. Wide. Could be kind of bad.
So can we try to get through two more players here? Can we get through
anyway?
All right, Mitch Dan. Rashee Rice, KTC 21, Fantasy Calc wide receiver 24. I'm at wide receiver 28. Mitch, Rashee Rice 25 first, 12 teams, 25 PPR.
Yep. Hey, I just got to say this. Let's be clear. I've come back on Rice, but if all things are equal or close, I want the more responsible human being. So I'm going to roll the dice on the 25 first.
And we know those 25 firsts are quite responsible when it comes to things. Rice for Zamir White.
Right.
And a 25 third.
Rice.
Rice for Jaden Reed and a 25 second.
Rice. I like him a lot.
Reed in a second. I'm a Jaden guy.
I
think
I would take Reed in the second here. Rice for Addison in a third. If these two are in a high-speed chase, I don't know who would win, but
it's Rice for me. I like him a lot more as a player than I like Jordan Addison.
Two irresponsible human beings. I'll go with Rice.
Rice for Jermaine Burton, Dontavian Wicks, and a 25 second. This is 12 team start 9.
Taking Rice.
Rice
If
smash.
this is his price, I mean, I think everyone should go out there and try to throw some deals together and see what you can get done.
The price is Rice. All right, Jordan Mason. I want to talk about him because I've tried to acquire him on teams that I have Christian McCaffrey.
Good luck.
Forget about it. We talk about contingent value. We talk about contingent upside. That's Jordan Mason. So KTC running back 53, Fantasy Calc running back 54. I actually made an adjustment today based on where his market has gone. I'm at 54 as well. So I bumped him up into that random 25 third. Nobody's selling for that. Doesn't matter what their roster looks like, especially when they see I have Christian McCaffrey. They're not doing it. Jordan Mason or Mike Williams? Dan?
Just really quick, like this is an example in patience. He was a guy I liked on film and I liked watching him, and he just kind of got in like third string for a while behind Mitchell. But I'm so mad because I think any one of us probably could add 100 shares of Mason before it was too late, and we didn't. But so for this one here, I just say it depends what you need. Flip a coin, Mason or Williams. Does your roster need a running back or does your roster need a wide receiver? You know, if I got to pick one, I'll take Mason just because of the value of the position.
Yeah, I have no faith Mike Williams is going to give you more than 8 games this season, so I'll take Mason.
I'll take Mason as well. Mason for Jaleel McLaughlin and a 25 fourth.
Greater opportunity, Mason.
Mason.
I'm going to take Jaleel here. Mason and Troy Franklin for a 25 second. Start 10.5 PPR.
If we had more time, I would have challenged you on the last one, but I'll take the 25 second here on this one.
Yeah, it's close. I'll take the 25 second,
I pulled this trade in from, so I made the show notes a couple days ago, like with the trades, and then tinker with it a little bit today. But Jordan Mason for Trey Sermon, 0.5 PPR. The Colts are now apparently bringing Leonard Fournette for a visit. And is that because of Evan Hall? Is it because of Trey Sermon? But Trey Sermon's a little dinged up. But anyway, Jordan Mason for Trey Sermon.
You know, sorry, I think you're up first, Mitch, right?
No,
yeah, my bad. See, I was so excited over Leonard Fournette. For our listeners that don't know, I played basketball with him once before.
Good Lord.
So he's back. So this is a smash Jordan Mason.
It's Jordan Mason. Yeah.
Jordan Mason. And then last one, Jordan Mason for Jordan Whittington.
Mason.
Yeah, I've been thinking here, but I want Mason.
Yeah, just too much upside. But like, again, I'm like offering a pair of thirds. I'm not going to get it done. So it's like
to a second, see what happens.
That was a lot of the counters that I've received, and I'm not going down that path. The guys that we were going to talk about from a value bottoming out perspective were Kyron Williams, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's the only quarterback that gets named the starter and his price drops. Deshaun Watson, we all know what's going on with the shoulder, the value. It's been horrible. Kendre Miller, dump him off your roster. Add a fourth and get a third. Like Kendre and a fourth for a third. Get him off. Travis Kelce, just because he's old, but he's going to be a potential league winner at his price again. We could probably go into more detail on the DD Fantasy Discord over the next couple days, but the football season's here, gentlemen, but I don't want to steal your thunder. Final thoughts for the first time on the DD Fantasy Football YouTube channel and the podcast feed, the 258th time overall. Dan, what do you got for all of our new listeners?
Man, hey, for all of our listeners, you see all 3 of our Twitter handles on the screen here. If not, follow us, FF Coach Dan, the Bauer Club, Dino MC. Between now and that first week, we're all grinding. JB will be in the spreadsheets in Dynasty. Mitch and I will even be cheating on JB a little bit and doing some DFS, but it is all going to relate to best plays. So look for us for some hidden nuggets. And even on game day, man, I know our Discord is going to be hot with the game day chat. I'll be watching games on the 4 screens, hopefully finding some nuggets. And just one last note on that DFS. We do have a contest in our Discord for Thursday night's game if you're so excited to kick off the season. And then we'll be putting out another one for Sunday.
I can't believe when we entered this relationship, I didn't know it was an open relationship. Dan and Mitch were stepping out on me, but I'm always loyal to Dynasty. What can I say? Mitch, final thoughts. What do you got for our listeners?
I want to make sure everyone remembers my fantasy league and sleeper. It's time for everyone's going. Normally, everyone adds roster spots in the offseason for their rookie picks. And now this week is when they get taken away. And a lot of times it stops you from being able to put your lineup in. So go through your rosters this week to make sure on Sunday morning when you're going to fix whatever injury or whatever happened since Thursday night that you're not locked out of it. You have to drop players that you haven't even thought about. You're like, oh, hey, I submitted my lineup, but it didn't actually go through. And the commissioner's like, well, it's because you were over your roster limit. Just make sure that doesn't happen to you, because it happens to me every year as a commissioner. I hear something, hey, I couldn't submit my lineup. I'm like, dude, it's your bad. I'm not going to fix it.
Good call. Good call there. And as a commissioner, I like how Sleeper at least gives you that warning, though.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of limits some of the issues there. But like I said, Mitch and I are going to be live Sunday morning. We're taking over the DD Fantasy Football YouTube channel from 11 a.m. Eastern until 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We need a little bit of time to tinker with our lineups after those inactives come out. Got to make some switcheroos there. But please join us. It's going to be a fast-paced show. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of energy. I'm going to be 10 cups of coffee deep. So hopefully you enjoyed our first show on the DD Fantasy Football podcast feed and YouTube channel. We're going to be back every single week recording Monday night's podcast and the show dropping on Tuesdays. Hit that like button. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, don't forget to do that. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I'm John Bauer. See you guys.